fans. I am backstage with the big winner tonight.
He is undefeated in the squared circle.
No one beats us to the punch.
Hey there, Bare Knuckle News fans. Susan Singari here in Tampa at the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame with one of the very first members that was ever inducted into this organization. He's the third man in the ring, Garry. Hey, welcome.
Thank you very much, Susan. It's a pleasure to be with you, and you are fabulous.
Thank you. Brian, what do you feel like is the most important reason why the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame needs to keep on doing these events?
It is to perpetuate the legacy of the sport of boxing in the state of Florida, and it's got a long history all the way back, back in the 1800s, believe it or not. Jack Johnson fought here when he was an oiler on freighters, and he was working his way from Galveston, Texas, where they called him the Galveston Giant, and he was working his way to New York City because he was infatuated with a magician he wanted to meet. So, yeah, we have a long history of boxing. And the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame is absolutely just cement for boxing.
Take us back to that moment. I think it was 12 years ago when you were inducted, because it was quite who's who of people that were being inducted. As I call, Angelo Dundee was one of his last times there as well.
Angelo Dundee went in with us. Ferdy Pacheco, Dr. Ferdy Pacheco, Ali's doctor. We had Pinklin Thomas go in. Wilfredo Vasquez, our senior from Puerto Rico, went in, a great champion. Florentino Fernandez, Willie Pastrano, Ralph Rodriguez. We had Johnny Boz, Jimmy Williams, my trainer and coach. It's on and on. I think Tutico Sabala went in with us that year, Phil Alessi. The first class of 209 was just a magnificent class. And Max Parker Jr., he was a referee. He and I were the first two referees to be inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2009.
Since you're an alumni from the class of 2009, what do you feel the fighters feel? How important is it to their legacy and the coaches and the trainers and the refs and the judges to be inducted into the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame?
Well, it does, like I said earlier, it cements your legacy, and it puts you into a time frame of, when you performed, and your families and your generations will continue to be able to look you up, especially with all the technology we have like Google. And I think it's a great honor, and people are humbled to be put into the Hall of Fame.
And for those of us who might be new to the world of boxing, Brian, give me sort of a laundry list, because I can say honestly, I think you've done just about everything when it comes to boxing, fight fans.
I have. In fact, I've constructed the rings. I've worked the corners. I've helped coach. I boxed. I've refereed. I've been a timekeeper, handled the bell, the whistle, and the banger for the 10-second warning. And I've been an announcer, by the way. I've also, Television 2 in Atlanta, I did the Olympic trials, and I did the Olympic box office. Also, I've had a radio show, and that was called Punchlines. And I had a radio show, and I had to stop it because I was still an active official. So I couldn't really be negative about anybody. I couldn't criticize anybody. I had to be very careful. So after having a very successful radio show, I decided I have to stop this. I'm still active as an official. So it was really a conflict of interest.
I feel like boxing has had a resurgence. What are your thoughts on that? Why does it feel like some of the younger generation people, such as the Jake Pauls, are coming out and they want to box?
Well, here's why. There are 70 countries that box, 70. And boxing's 24/7 all over the world. In Mexico, they have about 1,000 bouts a month. In Thailand, they sell boxing gloves in drugstores. People don't know that. The Philippines, they love boxing. United States of America, when I grew up in the 40s and 50s, we all had boxing gloves. We had boxing in CYO, 7th and 8th grade. In high school, we boxed. Afterwards, I went down to Al Jackson's gym, West 5th Street, gym in Dayton, Ohio. Did some amateur boxing there. It was nothing to see a kid walking with a pair of boxing gloves to each other's house with a towel, and we'd be boxing in the basement, in the garage, maybe build a ring out in an empty lot. So boxing really has a long history. The NCAA had major boxing, just like football, up until 1965. My son boxed for the Naval Academy. Our son, John B. Garry, just retired as a captain with 34 years, but he boxed for Jim McNally at the Naval Academy. And I was able to referee, not his fights, obviously, but I refereed 3 of the brigade championships 3 years in a row.
What a legend. What a history you have. What memories. Is there any particular time that stands out to you as something that, a moment in time that you'll never forget?
I did the Holyfield Vaughn Bean fight on September 19th, 1998. That was in the Georgia Dome. There were 41,300 people ringside. They cut the Georgia Dome in half. It held 82,000 for football, 41,300 for boxing. Met a lot of movie stars: Kim Basinger, Alec Baldwin, Mutubu Kembe, Wesley Snipes. But it was a great fight. It went the distance. The sports writers, sometimes they don't know, they didn't give Vaughn Bean a chance and thought he'd get tagged and knocked out in the first. He went all 12 rounds. He actually won 3 rounds on 2 cards and 4 rounds on 1 card. So that was an outstanding moment, but I've had others in Belfast and in Slovenia and in China. Beijing, I went to Beijing with Ali. 1993, we did the Brawl at the Wall, and I was selected to do the main event, Mike Hercules Weaver versus Smokin' Burt Cooper. And Ali was with us in his entourage for 2 weeks, all of us, 160 of us. Michael Buffer also went, Emmanuel Stewart. What a trip that was. We went to the Great Wall, and Ali and I rode on camels at the Great Wall of China. That was fantastic. We were in Tiananmen Square, in the Silk Market, in the heart of Beijing.
You're giving me goose pimples, you know.
Good. It was good. That was a big moment.
Before we go tonight, sir, is there anything else you would like to add? And thank you for taking the time to interview with me this evening.
Susan, I really appreciate you having me here, because I'm 80 years old now. So, that's 8 decades. The Lord has blessed me to be able to be on my feet. I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm almost as good once as I always was.
As we say in Spanish, su edad es en su cabeza, which means your age is in your head. And to me, you will always be an honor and a legend and a hero. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. For Bare Knuckle News, I'm Susan Singori, and this is
Brian Garry.
And No One Beats Us
To the punch.